Welcome to Android Studio Mobile Development. My name is Joe Oakes, and today we're going to look at how to perform a Hello World mobile app, using Android Studio. And the nice thing about this lab is that the Android Studio actually tries to help us out and create the Hello World app, and we're going to take it to the next level. So to start off, once you've installed Android Studio, you want to select the first option, Start a New Android Studio Project. Now, when we create labs in this course, I'll definitely let you know the name of the lab, but you want to put on the end, on the suffix of your hello world, your last name. That way I know that you were the one working on that particular lab. Okay, so let's get started. Hit Start a New Android Project, and there'll be a series of dialog boxes that will try to step us through, almost like a wizard, just try to step us through building the app. So the first thing that you notice is the application name. It says My Application. So what we want to do is replace that, and you're going to type in Hello World, and you would put in your last name, and since I already have an Oakes, I'll just put in Smith. The company domain that we're going to use, since we don't have a real company, let's just put in ist402.psu.edu. Notice the location of the project, of where the files are going to reside. It will create a nice scaffolding of some of the directories and initial files that we need, but it's always good to notice where they're going to be located so that if you need to zip them up or copy them off. So here, these files are going to be located in C, Users, Oakes, Android Studio Projects, and this one is called Hello World Smith. So you can just hit Next. Now it wants to know, when you create this project, what are you creating the project for? Because there's different types of devices that you could create this for. You could create this project for a phone or a tablet, or for a TV, or for any of their wearables, the glass, which looks like I don't have that installed. But so these are all the different target platforms that we could select. Now, the one that I've selected here, it says, is Android version 4.4 KitKat, and you could click on that and you could select the different versions if you have those installed. Now, one thing to note here is that depending on which ones you choose, and I have KitKat chosen, the older versions will have less functionality, so you just want to make sure that whatever target you're going after for the minimum software development kit, that's what SDK stands for, that you choose that. So for now, we'll just go with 19, that's Application Programming Interface 19, and the version we're targeting here is Android 4.4, which they codenamed KitKat. So you can see all the different version names there: Honeycomb, Ice Cream Sandwich, Jelly Bean, KitKat, and the latest, which is Lollipop. These are the activities that we want to start out with. So it's trying to, again, be a wizard and be a little bit helpful. So if you want to get something going initially with your layouts, they have a few to select from, and different almost template activities, which are really nice. So I'm just going to go with a blank activity. Again, we're just kind of stepping through this. Okay, so the activity name. This is when we create the project, the activity name will be the name of really the main class that we're going to be writing some code against and things like that. So for now, we could just leave it main activity. The title, you probably would want to change that. So we'll call it Hello World. And you could put your last name there, just so we know that that's the title of it when we actually select it. So this is really the last of the dialog boxes that we have to step through, and now we can just hit finish. And right now it's creating. We'll just close that. I'll make that a little bit bigger. Okay. So it created all the scaffolding for us. We can see here it says Hello World Smith, and it kind of gives us almost like a breakdown of the different directories that we have, and we can expand and we can collapse these different directories. There's different files that have different purpose in each one. So the purpose for this Android manifest is really to configure the application when it starts up and when it starts to run. So the drawable and the layout, definitely areas that we'll be working in, and it's kind of broken into two areas. So the main area that we're going to be working in for the UI would be activity main, right? And then the code behind, or the Java code behind here, and it kind of pops that up for us, which is really nice. Now you can see right now we're in text mode, and there's also a design mode. So we can select that, and what it'll try to do is take that XML code and use that to render, and it is actually also showing Hello World. So it did a lot of the lab for us. So if we look at the text, again, this is the XML that's creating it. It's created a relative layout, right, for us, and notice that we open it and then close it down here. It really only has one control really on it, and that is a text view. All right, so the text view on that activity main that we created here, it has text in there, and the text is Hello World. And notice it's actually using this @string. So it's doing a lookup, and this is kind of an identifier. It's doing a lookup to get what the string for Hello World is. And this is used basically for when you want to have different language support. So if you wanted to support, say, German or French, again, you just point it to Hello World, and you would have a different string XML file that would actually then have the French word for that. So you can see here, there's the identifier Hello World, and there's the string that will be displayed. So that makes it really nice if you want to support multiple languages, and that's really all that's doing. It just says @string Hello World, and it looks up in the strings.xml file to actually get whatever we want to say. Alright, so that's great. We have Hello World. If we look on the design there, we see it. Now it would be really nice to run it. Now before we can just hit the run little icon up here, this is the run icon, this is the debug icon. So if we want to debug it as we run it, it looks like a little bug there. What we have to do is basically set up and do some things first with the project. So what we want to do is set up the Android virtual device. Okay, to set up the Android virtual device, if you roll over, it's a little purple icon here, right? And it's got like a little Android symbol below it there. If you click on that, it will pull up the AVD manager. And your manager is probably empty right now. You might not have anything in there. So I created a Jelly Bean virtual device. So all you have to do is you click on the button Create Virtual Device, and you can go through and select phones or tablets or e-wearables like their watches or a TV, depending on what you want to create. So, and then once you select the size of that particular type of device and whatever resolution and the density you want, you can click on Create Device. Let's look at the one that I have, and you can go back and edit this. You can just, once you've created it, you can click on View Details, and here's all the details. Let's see, that I have, and you can click on this one to actually edit it. So when you want to edit that, the parameters that you've set up, I gave it a name. I just called it Jelly Bean. For now, we got 442, which is my target for KitKat, and you could change that. That's my scale that I have is the pixels and the that I have set for that particular device. I'm using the host GPU to make it a little bit perform a little better. Yeah, I don't. You want to make sure, give it a little bit of storage. The RAM, I've got 1 gigabyte, and the virtual memory, the heap I've got is 32 meg. So give that a shot and say OK. Now, when we want to run this, and we haven't really made any changes, I always think it's a good idea to first, take the project and before you actually edit anything, just try to run it. So I clicked on the little green icon here that looks like a play button, and it says choose a running device. Now, if I had a physical device connected up to this computer, like a phone or a tablet, and I've installed all the drivers properly, I would see that device actually show up in this area. Now, I could also launch an emulator to emulate, and remember I created this Jelly Bean one, and I have the other ones in there. You can create these virtual devices to simulate basically the Android device. All right, so we'll leave. If we didn't really want to see this dialog box again, we could click on this and it would just kind of use that for future launches. I'm going to say OK. And what it's doing right now, it's starting up an emulator that's trying to emulate whatever device, whether it's a tablet, a phone, TV, e-wearable, or a Google Glass. Now, before we can actually run our application, we have to take the mouse pointer and just kind of slide this over to unlock it, because if we don't, we can't see our application run. So left click and just kind of slide it over, and you should then see your application running virtually in there, and it says the hello world. So we were successful, which is good. It's actually working like we want it to. Okay, so now that we were successful in just baselining the application so that we know that it runs, let's make sure that we can try to edit the project a little bit. We have hello world on there, but let's try to put our own hello world and maybe a button, and we'll just work with some of the widget controls. So the first one that I'm just going to use the vertical scroll here. Just scrolling down, and let's choose like plain text. So using the plain text, what we can do is we can take that and we can drag it onto our design. So we really have two ways of working. We can work with the design where it's more drag and drop, or we can work behind the scenes in the XML to do really the same thing. Okay, so let's just grab a plain text and drop it on there. And notice that we're still in a relative layout. And if you look over here, underneath the relative layout, we have text view and edit view, edit text. And right now, if we look over in the properties pane over here, the properties pane, once we have something selected, that will show the properties for that particular widget that we're dealing with. So right now, and watch, I'll go up to text view. When you see text view, you'll notice that it has all these different properties that we can manipulate. ID is a very important one. That's if we want to identify it in the code behind. Very important property. So go back to edit view, and I'll just kind of go up and down here and just take a look at it. Now notice edit view doesn't have any text in it right now, so it doesn't show anything. Okay, so the edit view, we can see that widget over here. We could put hello world in there in that property, and if we click over here, now we see hello world. We could select it. We could try to find the ID, and notice everything is alphabetical, so it's kind of nice. And it does have an ID. It says edit text. All right, so let's change that, and let's call it TXT because it's a text type widget, and I'm just going to say hello, TXT, hello. So after we do that, let's look at the XML that it creates. And behind the scenes, you can see here is your edit text, right? And there's the ID right there. It's ID TXT hello, which is what we just changed. So that's pretty easy. If you just click back to design, you go back to design. Now we could put a button on there, and we can find the button widget. All right, and we have some different types of buttons: small buttons, radio buttons. So let's just go with a standard button. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and yeah, you can put it right there. And notice that how it's positioning itself is relative, right, to the hello world, which is right above it. Okay, so again, for the ID, for the button, we probably want to give it a good ID so that we would know. So I'm going to put in BTN, which is kind of like Hungarian notation for button, and say hello. Okay, great. So let's look at the text. So if we go down to the text, it says new button. That's not very, that's really not what we want. So we could change that, and we could say like submit if we want, or we could say this is going to do, I don't know, hello world, right? Something like that. Okay. So if we look at the code behind, now we have 3 widgets on here. We have a text view, we have edit text, and we have a button. Okay, good. So that looks pretty good. Let's go back here. All right. And it would be nice to actually now do something in the Java code, which is over here in main activity.java. Okay, to get to the code behind, let's click on main activity Java. And in the main activity Java, the area that we're going to focus on is right here. So this is one of the methods here on create. When we start up our mobile app, this is going to be one of the first methods that's actually executed. So inside of here, what we want to try to do is first we have to find that particular ID. Okay, so the ID that we want to try to find here is, and let's go back and just make sure. So the edit that we selected here, okay, and let's just make sure, go up, we called it txt hello. So that is what I'm looking for, is txt hello. It exists in this R file, which just stands for resources. So it's in there. You can see we're using ID to find it. And this is the method that will say, go look in the resource file for this particular widget that happens to be on there. Now, we haven't really finished yet, and you can see that it can't resolve what a type of edit text is. And remember, it's an edit text type of widget. So we have to add that so that it knows about the import up here. And what's nice is if it can't resolve something, and it was just showing me that, right? Trying to get it to show again. It's basically Alt-Enter will help you out in this case. So if I hit Alt-Enter, it'll say, well, what do you want to do here? I can't find this. That's why it's in red. You say import the class. And what that does, it just import it right there, that Android.widget edit text class, so that it knows about it. And now we don't have that in red, which is good, but we haven't really finished yet. So what I want to do is I want to put it into some type of variable. So I'm going to use a variable here called hello using the assignment operator, and I'm going to put it in that particular type of edit text. So all we're really doing is from when the application is running, I'm going out, I'm trying to find it. I find it using this method. We know what the type is. We assign it into a variable called hello. Now we're not doing anything with hello just yet, but we have that available to us. So what we want to do is let's try to add the word class to that hello that we have there. So right now it just says hello world. Let's have it say hello world class. So what I'm doing then is I'm using hello, which is right here. That's my object, hello, all right? And I'm saying set the text for that. That's the method. And then I say, well, get the current text that's already in there. So we're actually doing two things here. We're setting the text, but we're also going to get the text. And then I'm using the concatenation, concatenation operator, the plus sign, to concatenate a string literal class. This is going to execute when we start running the application, the little app, right? So, so let's give it a shot and let's see. So running the application, you can see that it did work, and it put on hello world, it added the word class, which it got right from here, which worked out great. So I would recommend to keep this running. If you shut it down every time, it's a lot of work for the computer to start it up every time. And it's really helpful to have a powerful machine when it comes to the emulation. The faster the better, so that it'll start it up quickly. Okay, great. Now let's put some code behind the button. So we have the button hello world, and what you want to do, go over to the properties pane, And in the on click, you'll see there's an on click area. And let's see, yeah, okay. And in the on click, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say hello. Okay, so I've got say hello in the property on click. So now in the code behind, I'm going to create a method called say hello. All right. So to do that, it's pretty easy. I'm going to paste in the code that I have. Now make sure that it's outside of the method because this is a new method that we're creating. So we want it to be public. It's not going to return anything, and I called it say hello. Now, if this shows up in red, that just probably means that you don't have the class view imported. So if it shows up like that, again, just hit your Alt-Enter, and it will basically create, you got to have a mouse right there, and then you can import the class, and then the notification that you're missing that class will let you know. So we have the method, and what we want to put inside the method here is, again, we want to find the view that we're looking for. So I'm going to look